Welcome, crew, to What Are Your Three, a Channel 3 podcast where we're not doing our normal thing today. We're not taking a member of the Channel 3 community. Rather, we're doing something a little different here. We're talking with a true indie game developer, and before Ray attacks me for emphasizing the true indie piece of that, I just bring this up because, we're talking about somebody who's truly independent in this case, not a studio called independent because they're not a first-party game or they're not Capcom or Namco Bandai, etc. here, but truly independent. So I'll kick it over to Ray, who is still with me as always.
We're gonna say this time, Dan and I are on the same. We're on the same page for once here. We are not on opposite sides of this. True indie developer for sure. We have tonight our guest Ryan Molina, the president, CEO, head developer at BattleGeek Plus, battlegeekplus.com, and the creator of the game Popcorn Rocket, which we're going to get into a little bit later. Available on Steam and PS5 and the PlayStation Store right now. Ryan, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Ryan, I got to kick this off because I have to call. We're doing some. We're not coming in half prepared here, but I got to call out the recognition of your alter ego on IMDb as Castor Troy, honoring one of the '90s greatest movie runs by an actor.
Yes, I am one of Nicolas Cage's biggest fans. That's been my internet nickname since 1997. I kind of dropped it in 2011 when I began BattleGeek Plus on YouTube. Well, but if you want to still call me Castor Troy, like a lot of people still call me that.
We're going to just stick with Brian and keep it simple. But we did want to call out just that we want to build your cred up, right? So some of the things we were taking a look at here. So some of your books, which are available at battlegeekplus.com, you make them freely available there. You've got some good work, some varying degrees of historical memoir to just kind of comedic musings would probably be how I would describe some of them here.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, the books used to be available on Amazon, but my account got taken down because one of the Japanese companies that's behind Dragon Ball actually took down my account since I wrote 2 Dragon Ball books and they thought that was infringing on their copyright when it really wasn't. So I got hit by that. So sadly I don't have the books available on Amazon anymore, but you can download them for free on battlegeekplus.com.
Yeah, we're gonna hit on that before we get there, but I did want to bring up I spent some time with the Fight Mega Man for Everlasting Peace Volume 1. First of all, just a great title to begin with.
Thank you so much.
My first question is, how did you not cover the psychotic game art in your book?
Well, I did put the psychotic game art in the book. I didn't really talk too much about it. I didn't talk too much about it because I'm not really a guy that talks about bad game art. Yeah, I mean, you can watch the Angry Video Game Nerd video about bad game art, and he does mention the Mega Man cover. So yeah,
it's a personal obsession with mine. I can't help it. I'm just what's the game about? He's a blue guy. He shoots things. Okay, no problem. Yeah, I got it. Here you go. And his gun is the hand. But you know what? Whatever. We don't have time. Just send it to the printer. Send it to the printer.
Yeah, I was also thinking that when I first played the game as a kid, how come Mega Man is not shooting a gun with his hand? He's shooting it out of his hand is the gun, and he's blue and he's not yellow.
The best part is it's still that way for Mega Man 2. It's not like they just ran it back again. It wasn't like, oh, we know what he looks like now. No, they just run it back. Give me the same guy. He's got something in the scrap pile. Use that.
Yeah.
Well, and I gotta say, it's a game that we've got varying degrees. We literally have folks at the website who were, there's folks who are in school still. We got a collection of college kids who are there. The guy who runs the website, frankly, is a professor of video game studies. Effectively, teaches esports and broadcasting. Awesome. So he's there's a bunch of University of Miami in Ohio. I have to say it properly. So anyway, we got a range to the old heads like me, which is anybody over 35 is puts into that category, and those of us over 40 that people like my co-host here want to take out back and just go old Yeller, it's over for us. But there's a pile of us here that appreciate the Mega Man lore, and you do a great job. You cover 1 through 11, even the newer stuff is in there, but a good little just explaining the rock paper scissors. You got all the character bios in there. Just
right, well definitely.
Done, nice job. What prompted you to make that game?
Yeah, that book, around 2018, 2019, I was getting into writing books because, I kind of wanted to do something more on the side of YouTube. And so I always love writing. So after I wrote, I wrote A Winner Is You first, and then I wrote my Play the Dragon book, and then I wanted to do a Mega Man book because the original Mega Man is my all-time favorite video game series, and I wanted to pay tribute to that.
So you brought up the other one I wanted to talk about. Ray's got some detours he wants to take before we get to Popcorn Rocket here. But you brought up A Winner Is You, which is just. Can you give your description of? Because I was going to say it's sketchy translations of out of context quotes from gaming history that are just gold.
Right. Yeah. So when I was younger, I used to visit this website called. It was called Zany Video Game Quotes. I don't know if it's up anymore. I did find an archive of it, and I would go to that site all the time. It hasn't been updated for over 20 years, and I wanted to make a tribute to that website in the form of the form of a book. And so I wanted to show all the really, really funny video game quotes that all of us grew up with, experiencing over the years, like A Winner Is You, This Guy Are Sick, and things like that.
Yeah, the thing is, they're not even obscure games. Like you said, it's wrestling. It is a major release from Nintendo. The Double Dragon, multiple Double Dragon games are in there. To the point where they carry it over even to Double Dragon Neon. They're like, oh, they made a joke about Double Dragon 3 in a modern game.
Exactly, in Double Dragon Neon. And very surprisingly, there were a lot of SNK games that I was able to get from that book.
I got to talk about two books here. The first I got to say, are you the number one Vegeta fan? Are you up there?
Probably back in 1999 up to 2002 I was, until I had to shut down my website because of bandwidth problems.
I was doing a site. I was looking through the top 10 Vegeta lists. Man, top 10 Vegeta anime fusions. I saw Vegeta and Hiei, and I was like, yeah, it's just Vegeta fusing with himself. It's perfect. They're the same short dudes with the same hair getting together. I love it. Oh, I love that one. And then, man, the history of Dragon Ball Z games, crazy, because when I thought of Dragon Ball Z games as a kid, Dragon Ball Z games didn't start till 2002. As a kid, I had the Dragon Ball Z on the Game Boy, the Story of Goku. I'm forgetting the name of it. It's not the Story of Goku.
I think it's Legacy of Goku.
The Legacy, there we go. The Legacy of Goku. That was the one on the Game Boy, and I was like, oh my gosh, here's the show. And then Budokai, when they start really doing the fighting
Budokai,
games. Budokai, which is unplayable now, but it just set the stage for what I think is one of the better fighting game series with the Dragon Ball Z games.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But just what? So I assume you're just a big Dragon Ball Z fan to put a site and this kind of history together.
Oh yeah, I love Dragon Ball Z. It's probably my all-time favorite anime, and I've been a fan of it since 1998, pretty much. Ever since it began on Cartoon Network.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely one of the first animes I watched. Cartoon Network on Toonami.
Yeah,
and you watched it in whatever version they had, because that's all we got.
Totally.
Right?
I would go home at 5:00 after school and watch Dragon Ball Z.
That's right. I got Tom the Robot there flying his vessel for some reason, and these are the shows we watch.
Absolute classic, man.
So just going through that history list and all the different games and the versions and stuff, that was just fun. That was fun to look through.
Oh yeah, thank you very much.
Playable Characters Podcast, funny interviews with real video game characters.
Hi, I'm Calvin Cato.
And I'm Brian McGinnis, and we interview video game characters on our show. We have comedians and actors come on and pretend they're a video game character for 30 minutes. We talk to them. It's all ad-libbed and improvised, and always very funny.
Past guests include Bowser, Ms. Pac-Man, Q*bert, Princess Peach, and Princess Daisy.
Yeah. Yep. You put them in a booth, and something short-circuited, and I decided that someone was taking too long in the money booth. And I hit her with a baseball bat. And thus was born Super Smash TV.
Just like that.
I was being raised by a family of toadstools.
How is that? That seems like it might be kind of fun.
It was really fun.
Mario should stick to plumbing, okay? Okay, he's from what I hear, a good plumber, a terrible hero.
Yeah.
So, really bad. And let's not get started on his, whatever he is, friend, brother, special friend, I don't know, Luigi, whatever they're
brothers,
doing.
right? Pretty sure
Well,
they're
that's what
brothers.
they're saying. That's what they're saying. They're
Right.
saying they're brothers because, in the Italian-American community, these people tend to not look kindly on certain relations.
If you want to know what's going on in your favorite video game character's life, check us out. Playable Characters Podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts.
Yes, comes out every Monday.
40.441818.
So let's get into kind of the main game of while we asked you on here, the Popcorn Rocket.
All right, Popcorn
Like I said,
Rocket.
already on Steam, on the PlayStation Store, $5 is a demo available, and just basic description, it just feels like just kind of those arcade space shooter games. I thought of Raiden when I that first kind of play through it. I mean, hilarious concept. Just let's start there.
Thank you. Yeah.
Where'd you come up with the idea that the salty foods are going to be the heroes of the story, and the desserts are going to be the villains of this thing?
Desserts are those villains. Okay. So I think back in 2017, I made this thing called Popcorn Rocket for my Twitch channel because so back when I was on Twitch, I used to play. I used to have a green screen in the back of me. Then I would pretend, hey, I'm inside this thing called the Popcorn Rocket. It was just some random thing I made up, and then I'm playing games in space on Twitch. And so when I went into game development, I think this is around 2021. So I was deciding, I think I want to make a game based on the Popcorn Rocket, and then. So my original idea was, I was going to be Captain Ryan of the Popcorn Rocket, just battles aliens, but I didn't think that I would make a really interesting protagonist, and and I don't think people would like it if if I self-inserted myself in a game, that might be too indulgent, and which I agree with. So I decided, why don't I revamp the whole Popcorn Rocket, and I want to make a character called Captain Colonel, which was his original name. Although I thought Colonel was definitely way funnier because I can make a lot of jokes about saying Colonel twice. Although Captain makes a lot more sense. So I decided, I wanted the salty foods to be the heroes, and then I also wanted the sweet foods to be the villains because as a lot of people are more aware of their health now, so they're denouncing all of the sweet foods, you can't eat cupcakes, can't eat cake, it's way too sweet for you, it's gonna give you diabetes. So I was kind of thinking maybe I can kind of make fun of that by actually villainizing that whole concept. So I was just coming up with a whole bunch of really really funny villains, okay, I'm gonna make Private Pie, I'm gonna make the Cookie Roid monster. Although I do admit there are some vegetables and also some meat that are the villains too, because there's just so much. There are so many different food groups that I actually wasn't able to put into the final game, but maybe I'll save them for a sequel.
I was all in as soon as the first villain was pie. So I was like, I don't want to eat pie either. So I'm more than happy to fight the pie fighters, which would be great.
Pie fighters.
love fighting the pie fighters to start off.
So Ryan, what prompted you what made you say it was time to make a game?
So this is kind of a long story. So I wanted to make games since I was a kid. So I went into college. I took computer science. So I took C++ and I also took Java. Then I absolutely failed all my classes because I just couldn't get programming at the time, and I had a lot of personal things going on. So I kind of gave up game development for over 15 years. I went into the film industry, and I also did YouTube. Then around 2021, I was getting really, really tired of YouTube. I was actually burning out on it since 2017 because it began to feel more like a grind rather than something fun I was trying to do, because I was trying to make YouTube my full-time job because, I was like, I want to be up there with the angry video game nerd and, other video creators like that. But then, I was burning out. I was getting tired of it. Then I decided in 2021, I was like, you know what? I think I'm really tired of this YouTube thing. I think I want to go back into game development because, I've been kind of tempted to go back into it for a very long time. And, game development, you can take your time doing it, rather than YouTube, because with YouTube, you have to get things out consistently in order to grow. And then, I was doing like the weekly schedule and I was burning out like really, really bad. I was getting a lot of views, but then I was like, man, I'm just getting really tired of this. So, I decided I'm going to do game development. And then, I have this concept called Popcorn Rocket that I might want to do. So, yeah, I'm going to change gears a bit. I'm just going to kind of leave the YouTube thing and, just do game development.
So what prompted the popcorn motif? So you talked about your Twitch. You had kind of the popcorn thing going.
Yeah.
How did that come in? Again, forgive me for not being familiar. I'm curious how the popcorn really popped here.
So popcorn is my favorite food. I will definitely say that right now because every time I go to a movie theater, I always have to have popcorn. Like with the movie theater butter, and I will definitely say movie theater butter is the best butter. To have with popcorn, and I do make a joke about that in the game. And I wanted to make something like for my first commercial game, I wanted to make something funny and silly. Like I didn't want to make like next, like Dragon Quest or Final Fantasy or next Call of Duty. Like I wasn't interested in making something that actually sells to a wide audience. I just wanted to make this really, really silly thing in my head, and I'll see if this thing can attract an audience. But most importantly, I just wanted to make it so it would exist. So it just exists out there in the world. And I wanted to make something that like rather than trying to make something that appeals like to the mass market. And I hope I did a good job doing it.
How difficult do you think the game is?
Well, as the developer, I kind of know where I know where everything is, but when I take the controller and start playing, I go into gamer mode, then I start dying. I'm like, dude, I know where this is. But yet I'm still getting killed by my own game. The game does not care who I am. So it's like the game is like telling me, hey, I have a mind of my own now, Father, and I'm going to turn against you. So I'm like, well, I could just go back into the code and give myself infinite lives if I want to. But you know what? I'm going to play it fair. And yeah, the game is pretty difficult. I wanted to make it like like those old school arcade shooters, like like Raiden, Galaga, and like Truxton, and also Thunder Force. Those were like really big inspirations. I like didn't want to make the game too easy. And yes, I've had people tell me, the game's too hard, but it really is a get good type of game. I wouldn't say it's the Dark Souls of space shooter games. I think that's a little too far, but I've had someone tell me, like, dude, this is the Dark Souls of space shooter games. I'm like, come on, dude. It's not that hard. It's very hard, but it's also very fair. I mean, if you just keep playing enough, you'll beat it, but don't expect to beat it on the first try.
The deaths and continues, I have to say, are extremely generous compared to some of the games.
I made sure to give people infinite continues because I don't like it when I only have like 5 or like 3 continues and then I gotta start all the way back from the beginning.
You're even like the boss kills you. You don't have to go back to the beginning even when you have the continue. You're right back there with that stinking cookie who keeps murdering me.
Yeah, that's the boss that everyone is having that's the boss that everyone's having a hard time with, but he is beatable.
Ray beat him. Don't worry, I know Ray beat him.
I beat him. No, let me tell you. I think the game. I really like the level the game's at. I beat 3 levels. So I got to go fight the pizza delivery guy, and I had to stop because I needed to recharge. I want to do that one fresh. But it was 3 levels. Probably took like an hour and a half. But I was sat there focused. My hand is sore from tapping the shooting button as quickly as I can. Like I'm there. I was switching between tapping with my thumb, and then all of a sudden I switched to my index finger. And I'm moving, and I got to pay attention because some of those rockets home in on you, and you got to run these circles. So, but no, you say that it's kind of like a get good game. I like it. I think it's really cool that I have to try. Like I want to try when I play a game with certain games.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. Right? Like it's a game that rewards you for playing more. Like it's a game that really, really keeps you on your toes. Like I didn't want it to be a game where like you just keep pressing the button and then you win. I mean, That's not fun. That's not a game to me, you know.
There's a mayo jar tapping game we found out about a few weeks ago. If you want an easy platinum PlayStation trophy, you just press the button 2,500 times, and was it My Name Is Mayo or something like that? I think it's called. You can just do that.
Yeah, I might have heard of that game. Okay. Yeah, but I definitely don't want to make games like that. And that's on the PlayStation too. Oh my god!
and has a platinum trophy that just devalues the entire economy.
Well, I actually wonder. I actually wonder how that game passed certification at Sony that quickly. I bet.
Hey, so what are your? Oh, go ahead, Ray.
Go ahead. No, go ahead and answer it.
So I was going to ask, what are your tips for those who can only, as people are starting, as they're getting a few levels in, any tips you have for anybody who's picking the game up?
Okay, my tips are, I will definitely say, if you have kernels, use them as much as possible. It actually doesn't help to save them because you're probably going to die really quickly. So if you have kernels, use them, and especially on the chaser enemies. The chaser enemies, the chaser enemies actually come in around the third level. So if you attach a kernel to a chaser enemy, then you blow it up. You can lure the other chaser enemies to get blown up by the kernel explosion. And if you have Nova bombs, definitely use them ASAP. If you're lucky, you can save them for the bosses, which really, really helps, but chances are you're probably gonna die before you get to use them.
First of all, I don't like being called out for hoarding. I hoarded 40 something kernels.
Oh really?
On the cookie, on the Astro cookie level.
Okay, that's awesome.
I was like, I have to save them. I don't know why I need to save them, but I feel like I have to save them. But you're right. Using them would be much more helpful.
As the RPG guy between Ray and I feel personally attacked against my entire gaming style.
I hold on to them, man. And I did for the second boss, because I made it to the cookies with 30 something kernels. I was
nice.
here we go, throw kernels. I got it. I get it. Thank goodness.
Yeah, actually, Ray, I will give you kudos for hoarding onto those kernels for that long, because it is very hard to hoard anything in that game. Even as the creator, I'm like, oh, okay, I want to save, I want to save the chocolate laser for the boss, because the chocolate laser does the most damage, but boom, I get killed by a shot right before the boss.
Oh, you're calling out my experience where I finally got the everything popcorn? Is that, or we're going to talk about this now, that I got hit by the double chocolate cookie right before the boss? I was like, no, come on! I had it!
Yeah, oh, that's happened to me a lot too. So yeah.
What's your favorite weapon in the game then? On that note, as I did to get the everything popcorn, but I do want to ask, what's your favorite weapon besides the obviously every weapon? But
besides every weapon, I know a lot of people like the homing, but the problem is
not on the second level.
Exactly. Because I specifically designed the game where each weapon is useful for different situations. So if you hold on to the homing missiles, if you hold on to the homing kernels, they're going to be useful for probably level 1 and 3, but not so much for level 2. Mm-hmm. And then. So yeah, the game is definitely designed to it encourages you to change weapons frequently. So if I have to say if there's a weapon I use the most, which is my favorite, I'll probably say the cheese spread.
Yeah, I'm the kettle guy you called out there with the homing. Thanks. You're just calling me out with this game left and right.
A chocolate laser was my thing. When I got that, I was like, "Oh, this is it. I love this thing."
Well, if you can hold on to it long enough.
Is there any enemy that you're like, oh man, this is the enemy that I can't stand facing? Not the bosses, but the little spaceships that come at you.
Okay, let me think. The enemy I hated the most that I designed, I would say the pie interceptors that shoot the homing pumpkins. Mm-hmm. And I will definitely tell you a lot of their patterns. I had to modify them a lot because during the beta stages of the game, I actually put a lot more of them in certain enemy patterns, but it got too hard to avoid, their homing pumpkins. So I balanced it enough where like you'll have time to avoid the homing pumpkins while being able to fight them at the same time. Because if you played, nobody else has played the early versions, but I mean, only I know the early versions of it. But yeah, if you played any of the early versions, the game was almost nearly impossible because of those things.
Well, I would say that when I was, I'm playing the game, and first of all, I tried it on keyboard first, and then I tried it on controller. This was, for me, it was a controller game.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
With the D-pad. For me personally, anytime I have to go side to side, I go D-pad. The stick just always messes me with these games.
Oh, really? Okay.
So I loved it, though. I love it. It felt good moving. My thing was, I was talking before we started recording with Dan that, when you go to these arcades and you play these shooters, you hit a point where you just feel like the game is just going to force you to lose because it wants you to throw in the next quarter. And I felt like this game is like one level below that where I can see the path.
Right. Okay.
I see the path to beat the level and hit these achievements to hit these big scores. It's just, I'm going to have to sit there and work on it, but it's clearly there. And so I think it's just it's that right level of challenge where I know I have a shot to do it, but I just got to sit down and get it done.
Yeah.
I think you hit the right balance on it.
All right. Awesome. Thank you. Yeah. Because like I had to do so much tweaking. I had to do so much tweaking to like the entire, enemy patterns, like when they appear and how frequent they appear. And let me tell you, it's not easy. It's not easy to find that balance of how to make the game how to make the game like really tough, but make it fair without it being unfair and really unfair and impossible to beat.
All right. Anything else on Popcorn Rocket? Otherwise, we're going to move on to another topic here. But anything else you want to talk about on the game?
About the game, well, it's actually been selling really, really well. Like I wasn't expecting that many sales for it since it is my first commercial game, but it's actually been selling really well on the PS5, which is great. So, I want to give everyone a big thanks for that. I'm currently working on the Xbox port of the game, so hopefully I'll get that out sometime next year.
Yeah, I was looking. You've even got the trophy support set up for the PlayStation, so we know plenty of trophy hunters out there who will be happy to know you have a platinum for them to be able to go gunning for.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah, I was looking through the achievements on Steam, and I'm like, oh, there's a bunch. I'm like, oh, there's I got to play this multiple times. Oh, this is cool. I'm gonna have to go back and do it again. So yeah, it's very clearly there, and I think it's well done.
Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah. All of the achievements and trophies are very, very doable. Like it's like not like the at the Halo achievements where like you have to kill like two guys within 5 seconds with a certain weapon at the same time. So yeah, every achievement is doable in this game.
Well, Ryan, you were kind enough to join us for discussing 3 games of your choosing, as we do with our podcast normally. So we're going to do just that. We're going to talk about 3 games that you wanted to discuss with us here today. First game up on the list here, Dragon Quest X, a game I will say, fully immersed yourself in, literally.
Oh yeah, totally.
So you have I did not get to watch the entire 8 hours of review, but you did have a very fun introduction here. But a game you've clearly embraced, as you talked about, your YouTube history, and again, we've got friends and fellow gamers who are battling those YouTube algorithms every day and understand exactly what you're talking about there. But so again, I jokingly say a game you fully immerse yourself in, but in all of gaming, what made you say we said we're going to talk about 3 games? Why did this one come up first?
Yeah, so Dragon Quest X is a game that I've been playing for the past 3 years. Almost 4 years at this point. It has not come out in America yet, and I'm a huge Dragon Quest fan. And it's an MMO game, and it was a game that I told myself I really want to play this game. So I think about back in 2020, like right at the beginning of 2020, right before the pandemic happened. I told myself, okay, I'm going to try this game out. I'll play it for 15 minutes to an hour, and then a couple of years later, I've put in over 2,000 hours into the game. And now we have a full English translation for the game, which did not exist when I began playing it, which is amazing now. And now we have thousands of people all over the world playing the game, which makes me really happy.
So what is it about the Dragon Quest franchise? I mean, this is one, we actually were talking to somebody about it earlier today, the Dragon Warrior days over here in the U.S., because they thought we couldn't handle emotionally the literal translation of Quest versus Warrior. Had to make it sound cooler, I guess. But it's a game you also call it in your video accurately. while it's something that's only recently gotten over here, it's something that's been out since the Wii days, and has carried on and carried on and carried on. Like, what's kept this thing holding on?
Yeah, so Dragon Quest X is an MMO game that you play with your friends. It began in 2012 on the Wii, and it's been ported to pretty much every console ever since then. It just hasn't come out in America yet because I don't think Square Enix thinks it's going to be profitable. Because the Dragon Quest franchise here in America, hasn't really gotten a ton of attention. I mean, it's gotten a little more attention in like recent years. Like we're having some more Dragon Quest games come out, like next month. But compared to Final Fantasy, which is massively huge here, Dragon Quest just hasn't had the recognition that I feel it deserves here out in the West.
Is it just like the need for the multimedia foothold or they just need their Final Fantasy VII to really catch on? What is it that's...
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. Well, obviously here in America, Final Fantasy definitely picked up way more because Dragon Quest had problems since the Dragon Warrior days. They actually didn't bring all the Dragon Quest games out back then, we didn't get Dragon Quest 5 and 6, which we would have gotten as Dragon Warrior 5 and 6. And before Final Fantasy 7 came out, from what I hear, Western audiences didn't play a lot of console RPGs. And I was how can this be true? Because I played a lot of Final Fantasy, I played a lot of Zelda, but I didn't know a lot of fans in America didn't play console RPGs until Final Fantasy 7.
Yeah, you mentioned the Dragon Warrior, Dragon Quest history, and I'll tell you, so we have, with Channel 3, we've got, we're trying to basically get every game in history in our library for rating and adding to lists and things. And I'll tell you, Dragon Warrior was a nightmare for trying to program in.
Oh, I can only imagine because you have all the Dragon Warrior games, and then by the time Dragon Quest 8 comes out, that's when they start calling the games Dragon Quest because the copyright for Dragon. Yeah, because the trademark for Dragon Quest was originally owned by the Dungeons and Dragon people back in the 80s. So that's why they couldn't call it Dragon Quest here. They had to call it Dragon Warrior. And then in the early 2000s, they were able to get the trademark back. So now that's why now it's just called Dragon Quest.
What's I'm glancing at our library. I had to go back and okay, Dragon Warrior 2. Then I also have it listed as Dragon Quest 2, Luminaries of the Legendary Line. It's the titles are cooler in Japan too. Come on.
Yeah, exactly.
Give us the good titles here.
I know, right? Yeah, in recent years now they're bringing out the cool, really sounding long Japanese titles too.
What catches you? So, of all the MMOs that are out there, why is this one the one that catches your attention these last few years?
Yeah, so I've played a couple of MMOs. I played Guild Wars. I play Final Fantasy 14. I play Elder Scrolls Online. But what I like about Dragon Quest X, it feels like a single player game with MMO elements. All the MMO elements are optional to do. You can actually play this game alone, but it's way better with friends. But it's a very easy game to recommend to MMO beginners because a lot of people are kind of on the fence about MMOs because they're afraid, I got to play with other people that I don't know. But Dragon Quest X is a game that you can play the entire thing all by yourself. Yeah. But we do have this really beginner friendly Dragon Quest X community and we have a huge Discord that I help run. So yeah, I've been helping a lot of people play the game, and they get to play the game, and they say, oh wow, this is a lot easier than a lot of other MMOs that I play because so many MMOs like Final Fantasy 14. I love that game, but there are times you are required to team up with certain people, and there are times that you have to team up with real people in order to progress through that game. Or in Dragon Quest X, you can just play the entire thing all by yourself.
Hi, I'm Adnan, one of the co-hosts of Strangecast.
And I'm the other co-host of Strangecast, Adam.
Yes, this is Strangecast, Player One vs. the World's Life is Strange centric podcast. We mainly talk about Life is Strange, but we also talk about games from Deck 9, from Square Enix, from Don't Nod, and we also bring on people from the community of Life is Strange and also developers, and including voice actors. Many of whom have won awards for their performances.
So come check us out on all major platforms, including YouTube, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. Come check us out, Strangecast.
Cheers.
negative 80.012791. All right, well, let's move into your second game. We're going from a game that's been hanging out for 10 years and hanging out for a decade in various iterations from Dragon Quest X into a game that as of today is just about to hit a month. As it hits a month tomorrow. As we're gonna jump into Marvel Spider-Man 2. And I'm gonna let you go off first before I don't want to get my soapbox. I'm gonna keep it tucked aside here, but I'm gonna let you start off here.
All right, man. So I'll definitely say, out of every superhero from DC, Marvel, Image, every single, every single comic brand, my personal favorite superhero has always been Spider-Man because he's a geek, he's a nerd, he's like relatable. Like he goes through like a lot of things that like most normal people do, but he's also a superhero on the side. So that's what drew me to Spider-Man. So I played a ton of Spider-Man games. And then I really loved the first Marvel Spider-Man that came out on the PS4 a couple of years ago. I 100% platinumed that game along with all the DLC. So yeah, I was really, really excited. I was like super mega excited for Spider-Man 2. And I'll definitely say this: I love the game, but there's a couple of things about it I'm not as big a fan of as the first game. I mean, I think the Rogues Gallery is way better in the first game. I have some questions about how they handled some certain villains and characters in the second game. Although what I do like better about the second game, it's way easier to get around the city now that you have the flying, and you have a lot more web gadgets. You can also use Miles Morales, who's really cool. And but yeah, I'll definitely say it's a worthy follow up to the first one. But I would say gameplay wise, I would play the second game, but story wise, I prefer the first game.
Yeah, I'm about halfway through right now, and I'm just going to say, I've been having this debate since May of okay, is Spider-Man going to overtake Tears of the Kingdom for me for Game of the Year? Now, I've not been part of the Baldur's Gate hive. I believe I saw you just cracked that one. I don't know. You have thoughts on early thoughts on Baldur's Gate 3?
Yeah, I just bought the game over the weekend, and then I played it for an hour. I really, really like it. Although I have not played enough of it to see if it'll be my game of the year, because my current game of the year right now is definitely Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, since I put over 150 hours into that game. So yeah, hopefully we'll see. But I'll definitely say Marvel Spider-Man 2. It can definitely win game of the year, but it's not my personal game of the year.
So how did it end up number 2 on the list? So we gave you all of history. Is it just something that freshly caught your attention, something you're recently playing? Is that what you're looking at here?
Oh yeah, it was definitely something that I was recently playing, and it's been very fresh on my mind.
Yeah, there's definitely a group of supporters. This is a year where Ray and I have both stated there are too many games. No offense to you releasing a game. You actually give us a really nice palate cleanser because again, Popcorn Rocket has been my go-to. I've been playing it on the Asus handheld, and it plays beautifully on there. Just so we're clear, but
okay, cool. I mean, I don't have one of those, but
it's a great waiting room game while I'm taking my kids places.
Nice.
I'm stuck somewhere pinned down for an hour, and I can bang that thing out. So I will say great palate cleanser for me when I'm in between elsewhere. But I do have to check it on the PlayStation.
Especially too many games, too many big games in one.
Yeah, way too many.
Everyone decided this to we'll put our game out too. We got 6 games up for Game of the Year, and I think most of them could win their own separate year.
Yeah, because
I don't always feel that way about games.
Yeah, I got Jedi Survivor back in May, but the problem is I got 25% through it, but then after that, Zelda Tears of the Kingdom came out, and I ended up playing that. And I said, and I haven't gone back to Jedi Survivor because so many games just came out this year. It's nuts.
They probably have the worst release date for Jedi Survivor. Just that thing got steamrolled a week later. It was a mess.
Right, exactly.
That was me with Hogwarts. And I mean, and Hogwarts came out early enough, and I was playing it, and then Tears came out. I stopped. I finished Tears before I ended up going back to finish Hogwarts.
Yeah, I've been wanting to check out Hogwarts, but I just, well, obviously I just haven't had the time. Well,
Exactly.
yeah, because I've been busy making a game, and I only really play games at night, and so it actually takes me longer to beat certain games, and just so many games have come out. So
Too many games.
Wow.
yeah. I mean, I just beat Super Mario Wonder, but I spent
yeah.
I spent longer on that than most of my friends did. Like most of my friends beat that in like a week. I think it took me like a month to beat that game.
Ray and I both insisted on 100%ing that one, and I finally, just on Friday afternoon, like I was off on Friday, I'm like, I am finishing the stinking last level.
Oh yeah, I 100% in Mario Wonder too, because I had to get every Wonder seed in that game.
That's the second game I've ever 100%ed.
Right.
It's not something that I do, and I needed to do it for this game. It was, that to me the game was perfect.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Perfect game.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like for Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, I explored the entire underground. I wanted to get every single light route.
That's dedication.
All right, so we're gonna talk about one more game here, and we're going opposite direction. After we got two big franchises here, and then we're gonna go with an indie game, really recent from last year, Brock the InvestiGator.
Yeah, all right. So Brock the InvestiGator. This is a really amazing indie game.
Indie.
Yeah, an indie game. It's not backed up by like a big corporation like some of the other indie games. Like this was a game just like made by one guy in France, and So what I like about this game, it's a big tribute to the point and click adventure games like on the PC back from the '90s. But it also combines like brawling in it, like kind of like Final Fight and other games like that, and like that genre has been gone for like a pretty long time. Like you barely see like any brawlers out there anymore. But like we've had like like Double Dragon Neon and some other games come out. Yeah, like this is it's like a big tribute to like to the old point and click LucasArts adventure games and like brawling games. And while this game it looks like it looks like a Saturday morning cartoon. It's like written like a David Cage game, like if you played Heavy Rain or if you played like Detroit Become Human, like this game is very, very heavy on drama with cartoon characters.
There's a large putt crowd specifically.
Honestly, that's really what I thought of when I was watching the game.
Yeah.
It just feels very 90s. Very like I'm gonna point and click, and then by the way, remember that other thing you really liked in the '90s when you would side scroll and beat people up? Like we'll just do it all in one game. And I was watching, I was like, oh man, it's just a nice. Like actually, you'd love having those things. How'd you come across this game?
When I actually began developing Popcorn Rocket, I was looking into like a ton of indie games, and I came across Brock the InvestiGator. Like by chance, and like I forget the exact details on how I came upon it, but I found it. I like watched like the trailer. I was like, oh wow, this reminds me of the old LucasArts games like back on the PC. So I bought the game on the Switch. I loved it. I got every single ending in the game, and I highly, highly recommend this game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a fun little game. It does, and again, it just calls back so many things. Really.
I did not see putt meeting Heavy Rain being on our bingo card.
I'll tell you, that's what I look at. If I think point and click, like my head goes to putt golf. That's just like it's just the one that comes back to me every time.
Well, Ryan, if you'll humor us, one thing we do normally on the website, we have a series of questions on the Channel 3 history books. We usually pick one just random for a person to discuss on here. And again, if this doesn't work out, it just disappears from the podcast and no one ever knows it existed. But otherwise, maybe we have a little fun. So the quest that I'm going to pick from the history of Channel 3 is, for the rest of your life, you can only play one game. What's that game going to be?
Oh, that's a tough one. If I have to choose one, if I had to pick one game that I can play forever and ever, it's probably going to be Dragon Quest X.
That's fair. You get the whole gamut you can run there.
Yeah, there you go.
Hopefully enough people have also picked it that you have someone else you could go with too. When needed.
Exactly.
All right. Well, with that, we have made it to the end of another What Are Your Three podcasts. Ryan, thank you so much for being here. Please, people, go out, check out battlegeekplus.com. Check out Popcorn Rocket. It's on Steam. It's in the PlayStation Store. I mean, fun space shooter. Go try it out. I'm having a blast with it. I'm going to be sitting down and play it level by level. It's like if you play space shooters, you're like, hey, I want to sit down, I want to work on something, go play this game. It's definitely a fun one.
Ray, I just want to emphasize, sorry, there is a demo for it too on Steam.
There is a demo for it, and we'll make sure we'll link all that up too.
All right,
nice
guys.
and direct. You can find the podcast at c3.gg/podcast, dropping every Wednesday morning at 3:33 a.m. Eastern on all the major platforms, including Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts. I'm Ray. Dan Tucker puts this all together. And for our executive producer, Joel Willis, have a good day, everybody.
Have a good one.
Thanks for following back up, because like I said, it'd be kind of fun.
Oh yeah, absolutely no problem, man. Thanks for reaching out.
Yeah, no, it's Ray. We just finished up recording another like traditional episode, and you got to hear my tirade about quote unquote indie games that are coming from elsewhere with multi-million-dollar Hollywood studios backing them. That I said no. Let's talk to a real independent here. Thanks.
I independently have millions of dollars on me. What is that? I mean, that's obvious? That's clear, right?
The best debut indie game at the Game Awards that's leading the pack right now is a game that's partially financed by Annapurna. That's a multi-million-dollar video game studio tied to a movie studio that is released a bunch of other games. So that's not a debut, guys. Not how this.
Yeah,
you keep saying that word. Yeah. I don't think you know what it means.
Well, I still hope Pizza Tower wins it.
It's in there. Yeah, there's hope. That's why I was looking.
Of course.
We'll see. The first person to message Dan on channel3.gg with what those numbers meant hidden throughout here will get a free copy of Popcorn Rocket on their Steam account. Anyone else who messages me after that between the time of this release, 3 a.m. Eastern on Saturday, December 9th, will be entered in a drawing to win a copy of the game as well.